there's a story that's not being told. The story of Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. The world has condemned it as the occupied West Bank. Could it be the biblical and historical heartland of Israel? Hear the miraculous stories of true pioneers who have dedicated their lives to the restoration of this land. Discover what's being hidden by mainstream news and media. Experience extraordinary places that few people even know exist. Join us for the Joshua and Kaleb Report, stories from the heartland of Israel.
Welcome back to the Joshua and Kaleb Reports. It's, 10:30 tonight. It feels much later. It's a cool evening here. But we are, I guess, bracing ourselves for a long night. We're going to Joshua and Kaleb's tomb in a nearby Arab village. But we're going to get a lot more into who were Joshua and Kaleb. And that's why we've got Ari with us. Because Kaleb and I, we've got the namesake, but we want to get into who is Joshua and Kaleb. Who were Joshua and Kaleb? What did they live for? What did they do?
Well, guys, hey, we just arrived here at Joshua and Kaleb's tomb. It's known as Joshua's tomb, and they're thinking traditionally that Kaleb could possibly be buried here.
So as we're walking in here, Ari, tell me, what is a Jewish person doing when they're visiting these tombs?
What is a Jewish person doing? To get that answer, you'd have to ask every Jewish person there.
It's going to be different.
Two Jews, three. But I'll tell you what it is for me. For me, when I look back at Moses, right? You know how many generations back that was? 60. Meaning 60 times, I ask my grandfather, he would ask his grandfather. That's a really attainable number. Meaning that in a very real way, this is our Bubby and our Zadie. These are our grandparents. This is our family. And just as you would go to your grandfather's, tomb when you visit Tennessee and just to show your respects and to connect with him and to think about him. So when we go to these places, there is a special spiritual energy to it. I feel it, and especially when it comes to the cave of the patriarchs. Abraham chose that place because there was a pre-existing power there. Chevron is chibur, from the connection, which is also why Kaleb, when they entered the land to spy out the land, which, by the way, they weren't really entering to spy out the land. Moses says, Latur et haaretz. You should go into the land as tourists. What are they, like tourists? What does a tourist do? They go to see the good in the land. But they became meraglim when they were there. They became spies to see the bad in the land. But Kaleb first went to Hebron to pray at the tomb of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he prayed for strength. He prayed for courage. He prayed to, why Abraham? Abraham was an Ivri, a Hebrew. He was on one side and the rest of the world was on the other. And Kaleb needed that sort of courage because he was about to embark on being really on the other side of very powerful, prestigious, and righteous men. And he was going to be standing against all of them. So he needed that sort of Abrahamic courage. So when we go to these places, at the very least, we're remembering who they are and in their merit, we're praying to God. We're not praying to the person, God forbid. We're praying to Hashem, but we're trying to channel it through the merit and the character and the calling of the people that are there. We're really trying to bear a positive report about Israel. I don't really like saying positive because it makes it seem like we're spinning it positive. It's not. It's just a true report. It's a report of truth. And the irony, what's scary about it, is that the spies, I think that they thought their report was true also. But they weren't being true with themselves, and they didn't have their fear in their hearts directed in the right way. So, that's what I'm going to be praying for when I go to these tombs of Joshua and Kaleb.
Okay, I want to dig into something for a moment here, guys. Have y'all been observing where we're walking?
I know.
It feels kind of different, doesn't it? Like, I don't know, like we're walking through the middle of an Arab neighborhood. And a couple times I've stopped myself and go, did we miss our turn? Are we going the right way?
It seems like everybody's asleep. There's probably 10 or 15, 20 IDF here. a couple random Jewish people walking through every now and then from many different walks of life. But this is what it looks like right now. I have no idea how much farther we're going to walk here, but we're going to run into Joshua's tomb, and supposedly Caleb's tomb is right beside it somewhere.
Other side of the truck. This is a crazy walk.
I know, it's really great.
I think we got there. We're getting close, though.
So this is Caleb's.
This is Caleb's.
Hey guys, we just arrived here at the tomb of Kaleb ben Yefuneh. It's quite amazing. I'm not sure quite what I'm feeling right now. The fact that I'm entering Caleb's tomb
Your
from the
namesake.
biblical text, my namesake, right? It's crazy.
I want to take this into a time just to talk about Caleb. You know, obviously, when I think of Caleb, I really think of a zealous warrior, like a man who really fought for truth and was really one of the giants on the side of truth. You know, we always hear about the grasshoppers on the other side, and the other 10 were saying, you know, we'll never make it. But Caleb was one that said, no, there's something bigger. I know the promise. I know who's actually in control. He's one that looked at the giants and said, it's nothing. It's really nothing. Even when he was an old man, right, where he takes Hebron. So to walk here, to be here, and to just think about who Caleb was.
I mean, think of his name.
Yeah.
Think of what the name Kaleb means. Kaleb, like the heart. Because he followed after Hashem's heart. He wasn't concerned, what's going to happen to me? When I go, are they going to stone me, or am I going to be called a heretic? Will I be universally condemned? It wasn't even a thought in his mind. He was a true leader. A leader. And what is a leader? You know, Rabbi Sachs says, what is humility? Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And Caleb wasn't concerned with what was going to happen with him.
He didn't seem like he needed like a huge group of people around him to make something right.
No.
He was like, this is right, I'm taking this mountain.
This is
I don't
right.
care if anybody else is with me. This is what I'm doing, because he had like a God vision inside of him. He said, this is where we need to go.
I'm really trying and praying that Hashem gives not only me, but the nation of Israel the courage and the vision. And I really mean the vision. The eyes to see that this positive report isn't a positive spin, but it's the true spin. It's the true. There's no spin at all. There's no spin at all. It's true. And while the spies came back and said it's a land that devours its inhabitants, what did he said? Our enemies are our bread. We can devour them. It's no problem at all. We can do this thing. You know, so it's just a very simple simplicity. I feel like sometimes Jews get so overcomplicated. We complicate things. Just a simple faith in God.
Well, let's take it inside.
So we're about to go inside here and kind of give it from a totally, like, you see this and you probably just feel at home here, but for me it's like totally foreign what's going on inside this room. Like what are they saying right now?
I mean, it depends who a lot of them are either just speaking from their hearts, or many of them are saying psalms, which is an important thing to think about, why we would be saying psalms. We say psalms at every kever, but why we'd be saying psalms in this place, because this is as good a time as any to share the idea. You know, Kaleb was from the tribe of Judah. Now Judah, what does Judah mean? Judah is from the word Yehudah, from the Hodot, which means to thank. But part of what it is to thank is recognition, acknowledging that you are indebted to someone for something. It's an admission. Now, when Judah was the story with Tamar, right, and she said, the bearer of this staff, he could have just let her die and no one would have known, but he admitted. He said, no, it's me. He admitted the truth. And David HaMelech, that was his, King David, the author of the Psalms, that was his strength, and I think that's part of Caleb's courage. Because it's so much in the DNA of the tribe of Judah to be able to admit when you're wrong, that there's not such a fear of failure. Because failure is just an opportunity to recognize the truth, to be modeh al ha'emet, to acknowledge the truth, and to grow and learn from that. So you put yourself out there, and you may fail and be all alone, but that's of no relevance. So when we're going in there and we're saying the Psalms, we're connecting to Kaleb through the tribe of Judah and King David who composed these Psalms.
Can we go in?
Yeah, let's go in.
right, guys, we're just exiting Caleb's tomb. I don't really want to get from Ari, what's the significance of what we're witnessing here and what's behind it? Like,
the significance, I think, of what many of us are praying for here right now is what did Joshua and Caleb bring to the world, right? There's the 9th of Av was the day that they came back and the spies brought back this negative report. And the Midrash says that God said, when the Jewish people responded by weeping, oh, we can't do it, we have to go back to Egypt, God says, you're going to cry? I'll give you a reason to cry. Throughout history, the tragedies that have befallen the Jewish people have been on the 9th of Av. From the destruction of the temples to the exiles, it was all on the 9th of Av. And that's why we need to fix that initial thing that happened, because think about what happened. 10 out of 12 of the spies had an evil report. In the times of Ezra, when the temple was being built, 42,360 Jews. That was how many Jews returned. The vast majority stayed behind in Babylonia. Such a desecration of God's name. And now here we are in Israel. And the majority of Jews are still not here yet. And we need to come with a strong, positive, welcoming report. A report of optimism, of having that vision of what Shlomo Carlebach calls Mashiach eyes. To pierce the blanket of darkness that's right in front of us, see through it, and see how all of this is leading to the unfolding of messianic times, of Geulah. You know, the Torah tells us Caleb had a ruach acheret, a different spirit to him. And Yishai Fleischer always shares this beautiful teaching that, you know, in Hebrew, the Jewish perception, there's also the idea of gematria, that each letter has a numerical value. So the word acheret is achar, taf. The letter taf is 400, meaning after 400 years, there was a certain slave mentality that to some degree even Moses may have had, because he wasn't allowed into the land, but Caleb was of a post-slave mentality, not a mindset of fear and projecting all of his darkness, but one of hope and optimism and faith and courage.
Wow.
And that's what I think is being born here in Israel right now.
You see that here in the land, don't you?
I see it in the land. I see it in the children that are here, that are fearless
like
in a way
those
that
born in the land have this different spirit.
It's a different spirit. The land itself,
wow.
It has a different spirit to it.
Well, we're here in the vicinity of Joshua's tomb. I'm guessing it's this building here. I wonder if we can get in there.
Looks like this is definitely more of a happening spot.
I think the biggest thing that I get of just being here is seeing probably 100 Jewish people or more right here at the tomb of Joshua and realizing what that means. For 2,000 years, there hasn't been any Jewish people around not even in the land of Joshua. You know, Joshua came with the children of Israel, settled here, and there's been this distance for 2,000 years. And to see you, Ari, standing right next to Joshua's tomb, it's a big deal. Joshua's been here. This is his hometown for, what? Thousands, over 3,000 years.
Wow.
And now you're standing back here. What an amazing deal.
That's awesome. So we should go inside.
We should totally go inside before time runs out.
You know, the thing that I'm thinking about as we're walking inside here is that one of the things that I believe, if I'm quoting the text correctly, and I'm not a scholar in this way whatsoever, is that, isn't it said that Joshua never left the tabernacle? Like he stayed near the tabernacle?
Yeah, I just read it.
When you say the tabernacle, do you mean the tent of meeting?
Tent of meeting, yeah.
Joshua,
okay.
He says Moses left, but Joshua never.
He was Moses's, if Moses was the sun, Joshua was the moon. And Joshua would stay put in the tent of meeting no matter what. Yes, that's true.
So it's fascinating to me about this. You think about it. What happens if we're looking to lead, if we're looking to be a testimony of God, what do we have to do? We have to glue ourselves to finding who we are in God, and then God leads us to the place we need to be, right?
Yeah, you know, the truth is, I don't know that the right undertaking is to be looking to lead.
Right.
Right? I just want to bridge the gap between my head and my heart.
Right.
I know that God is in control of everything and there's nothing to fear but him. And when we live that truth, people follow. People follow.
stand right here and to be surrounded by so many like pioneer Jews. And the sense that I'm feeling at the moment is that these guys truly embody the spirit of Joshua and Caleb. Because who they were the first settlers. They were the first guys in the land. They were the first guys who spied out the land, and they connected to it. So like as I'm standing here and surrounded by these guys, I'm just like, wow, is the spirit of Joshua and Caleb coming back alive in our generation again after 2,000 years of literally nothingness taking place here? It's incredible.
Yeah, so it's coming alive not only among all the Jews in Israel, but in my experience, now that I'm living out in the hills of Judea, surrounded by Judeans, it's really coming alive in the hearts of the Judean Jews that are living there, surrounded by Arabs, 23 Arab states, 57 Muslim states, and it's just fear of God, joy, gratitude. They're living a life that is really a Joshua and Caleb life. But you know, the truth is there are also Joshua and Calebs that I've seen around the world. Now, how could that be, right? Joshua and Caleb's that are not in Israel? Well, you know, the leaders of the generation were the 10 spies. They were the leaders, the great rabbis. And Joshua and Caleb did not listen to them. And we also need to be willing not to listen to the great rabbis alive today. If they say, don't move to Israel, don't go, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. But I've seen rabbis in America that when a Jew makes aliyah, you know what they do? They have a big kiddush and a whole thing in their honor, and they celebrate it. So those are leaders that say, you know what? It's not about me and losing my power. I'm going to encourage my flock to go to Israel. And I want to encourage Jews around the world and rabbis around the world to understand that this is the calling of our generation, to come home. And when your flock and your congregation wants to come back, encourage them, celebrate it.
And just like Ari has a message to the Jews of the world, come back to the land, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's amazing, more Jewish people in the land. I would say to all those of the nations that Caleb and I represent from all over the world, you can also walk in that Joshua and Caleb spirit of coming alive, supporting Israel with all you have within you, coming and being part of the greening of the land, be that amazing farmer that Joshua was, and let's see the land of Israel supported and greened in this. I mean, this is the Joshua, the time of the land, the favor of God back upon the land. We're seeing it. It's happening from right where we're at.
Yeah, and wrapping this whole thing, guys, up, I had no idea what I was about to see when I came on this thing back here. And literally, I have been blown away and truly seeing the spirit that's here. And the truth is, to quote Joshua and Caleb and what they said to the children of Israel, they said, though there be giants in the land, our God is greater. Those are the words of Joshua and Caleb. The God of Israel is alive, right? And so as I'm standing right here, I'm seeing a mosque up above me here. I'm seeing this courtyard here surrounded by Jewish pioneers. And to me, the God of Israel is alive again, back in the land of Israel. And yes, the battle is real, but truly, our God, the God of Israel, the Jewish God, the people of Israel are back in their land again, standing on the promises of God and enacting in that process. To me, that's Ari, Yishar Koach. Keep going, bro.
Fantastic.